don't you? Yes, we all laugh now, but oh boy, we were frightened then. Thank God for that. Thank God. Everybody, we want you to join us on Monday night as we talk. We come here, we have a live Facebook Live discussion from 6 until about 9 o'clock. It's really it starts at 6:45, and it's Let's Talk About It with Santita Jackson and friends. We have a great time. Bring your own beverages. But we're going to be talking about Iowa. We're going to talk about the responsibilities of the black media. We're going to talk about what's been happening with Oprah and Gayle and black media and Iowa. There's so much that we're going to talk about on Monday. Don't you want to be here? You know you do. I don't hear you. Yes. So, how many of you are ready for the 2020 census? Are you ready? Are you going to participate? Please tell me the truth, because the studies are showing that African Americans are least likely to participate in the census. Least likely because of mistrust, because of distrust. And so what we want you to know is that you need to participate in the census, because this is how we create our congressional district. This is how we get our funding. But no one knows more about this issue than this woman I bring before you today, one of our very own, Bathsheba Wyatt Draper. Everybody, put your hands together.
Thank you so very much. Good morning, everybody. I'm so glad to be here. And this Saturday, I'm going to take a moment not just to talk about what's happening locally, but I want to make our national people aware of some scams that are going on around the country. Oh yeah, this census is important, and that's why I need each and every one of you to work with us. First, I want to tell you about the scams. There's a 2020 Congressional District Census form from the Republican National Committee that includes an envelope that says, "Do not destroy." Now, this document asks all about how you feel about the Republicans. It even asks you for a donation. And it looks official. Now, it's just not happening this is from Cleveland, but it's also happening in California. So what we need to know is the real census envelope says 2020 census. The census doesn't ask more than 5 or 6 questions. It never asks you for money. It never asks you about your political persuasion. So we need to be on board, because this is something that we need to be aware of. They wouldn't do this if it wasn't important. So we must educate ourselves to educate others, and that's what we do. Everybody counted, everybody in. That's what we're about. Now, locally, I've been telling you, I told you last week, that we're about to get together. We're going to meet Tuesday evening here in Rainbow Push, 930 East 50th Street at 6:30. I encourage you to come by. We're going to have information. Our personal goal as an organization is our seniors and our youth, because they seem to be the ones who either think this is the least important or seem to be the least confused about how to participate in the census program. We want to eliminate myths and create the benefits in your minds of why this is important. You can call at 773-256-2757, extension 757, or call 773, Freedom on your dial. Let us know if you plan to attend on Tuesday. We want to make sure that we have enough information for everybody. It's important that you call and let us know that you're coming. If you don't come to us, we'll eventually get to you. But we want you to partner with us now. So remember, everybody in, everybody counted. Let me hear you say that. Everybody in, everybody counted. Now, I'll be back when I have some more information, because we're out here getting ready to hit the ground running. That's what we do. We tell you to push us on, we're about to start pushing. Thank you.
Come on, give it up for the census and Bathsheba Wyatt Draper. You can do better than that. As we bring on this great woman of God who is our jewel here at our Rainbow Push Coalition, I hope how many of you have this book, Keeping Hope Alive? Well, we want you to spread the word. And those of you who are on Facebook or on social media today, particularly those of you who are on Facebook, please like and share. Anyone have their phone here today? Felicia, anyone? Felicia Lawrence on WCIU here in Chicago from 6 to 8 a.m., even though it's on the same time as my radio show. I'm not mad at you. But we have to support each other. We have to support each other, right? That's amen. That's what we do. We've got enough eyeballs and enough people to do a lot of things. And we got to keep her on the air. How about that? Don't we want Felicia on the air? That's right. So we want you to get this book. It has been #1 on the Amazon bestseller list. It has been the #1 best-selling religious book in the United States of America for weeks. And that's because of you. So what we need you to do is to tell people about it. I don't care what they say. You have got to push these books yourself. I don't know about these book clubs and everything else, but we have to have our own book club, right? To tell our own story. Are we not learning that? So everybody, get this book right now, Keeping Hope Alive. And if you are on Facebook right now, like and share this broadcast, all right? And we give a loud thank you to the Impact Television Network, the largest African-American owned religious network, who are carrying us right now. Give them some love in Detroit. And keep those hands together as we welcome Reverend Attorney Jeanette Wilson. Come on, everybody.
Good morning, Rainbow Push Excel CEF family. Listen, I'm just excited. It's about time for our HBCU college tour, April the 4th, on the anniversary of Dr. King's assassination. Guess where we're going? We're going to Memphis, and then we're going to leave Memphis. We're going to Mississippi. Then we're leaving Mississippi and going to Louisiana. And then we come back around to the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. On our journey on the HBCU tour, we're going to visit several colleges. We'll have the colleges in the Memphis area, Lane College and Lemoyne Owen. They will be meeting us on April the 5th. When we get to Mississippi, of course, we're going to Alcorn. Of course, we're going to Jackson State. Of course, we're going to leave there and visit some of the historic sites. We're going to visit one of the automotive plants so our young people can see how cars are made. Then we go to Louisiana. We're going to visit Southern and Baton Rouge. We're going to visit several of the schools in Louisiana. Then we go to the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. You want your child to go on this trip. You want them to register now. If you're in the Chicagoland area, meet us here on Saturday. Today, register your child. It's $35 for a registration. We want them to take the classes so that they are prepared for college. This is not a vacation. This is a business trip. We want to get our students enrolled in historic black colleges. Why? Because there's a history there. Why? Because they will encourage and support them on those campuses. Why? Because they graduate more doctors, lawyers, engineers. They graduate more teachers. They graduate more African Americans, and particularly African American males, than any other institutions. Why? Because they need that foundation. Why should you do it? Well, we got students coming in from Detroit to join the tour. You want your child on this tour. We will make sure our classes are online if they can't make it during the week on Saturday. Parents, I don't know what else your high school students should be doing, but coming to Push on Saturday morning. If you want to register your child, go to pushexcel.org right now. Pushexcel.org. It's $35. That's a membership in our organization. Membership matters. Well, I don't have any more time. You hear Reverend saying, all right, all right. We have so much ground to cover. I'll have more to tell you next week. And while we're on the tour, we're going to be registering voters. You'll hear more about that. We're going to turn it up and turn it out. Join the HBCU tour.
Put your hands together for, well, Reverend is directing. It is Reverend Jackson. Put your hands together, everybody. We've got to get our children out to college, and sometimes when they get on these tours, this is the first time they've ever had exposure to college. So we need your support. That's why we need you to come to the Cool Kids Code fundraiser at Soldier Field on Thursday, February 13th at 8 p.m. Please call 888-503-6631, 888-503-6631. Go to rainbowpush.org. Join Shaquille O'Neal, Zeke, also known as Isaiah Thomas, Dave Bing, Judge Greg Mathis, Dougie Fresh. We need your support. How many of you going to try and come on Thursday? Come on, we need to fill up that United Club at Soldier Field. You know, everyone says that the most important issue of the 2020 campaign is health care. How many of you read the story about the woman who had, just happened a few months ago, she had strep throat, and she got a bill for $28,000. Because even when you have health care and health insurance, if you are billed, say you get the throat culture and it's billed out of network, you can get billed hundreds and thousands of dollars. So let's talk about affordable health care, and we have got a fantastic group with us today. We've got Jack Lynch from the Gift of Hope, Dr. Cheryl Wolf, Rush University Medical Center, and Lori Wilcox Bloom. Come on, everybody, come forward. You can do better than that. Put your hands together.
Thank you. Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you, and good morning. Very quickly, I've been involved in transplantation for the last now 30 plus years. My career started over at the University of Chicago Division of Transplantation, and upon receiving that opportunity, my first stop was right here at Operation Push. It took me 9 hours to get in to see Reverend Jackson, but I told him about the daunting task of educating the African American community because so many African Americans were suffering from end-stage organ failure. He looked at me and he said very calmly, looking me in the eyes, "Dr. Frankenstein, you're crazy." I took that and ran on with it, and where we are today, after the guidance and the referrals that Reverend Jackson gave us to meet with these individuals, we have evolved to be the most successful organ transplant program in the country. We transplant more African Americans in the state of Illinois than any of the other 49 states. We not only transplant more, but we recover more from the African American community. So some would say that's the gift of hope and all of its doing. But the foundation started right here at Operation Push. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. I'm Cheryl Wolf. I'm an OBGYN physician at Rush University and Medical Center, and I'm here representing the organization Equal Hope. And so I want to tell you today about what we're trying to do. We want to eliminate cervical cancer in Chicago. Let me say that one more time. We want to eliminate cervical cancer in Chicago. It breaks my heart when a patient comes to me and she tells me she has cervical cancer and she had to have treatment. Do you know why it breaks my heart? Because cervical cancer is almost 100% preventable. One more time, cervical cancer is almost 100% preventable. But we're going to need help to eradicate cervical cancer, and it's going to start here. How can we help? Women, get your Pap screens. Get a Pap test. It should start at age 21 up to age 65 or older, depending on what your circumstances are. Make certain when you go to the doctor that you know you are having a Pap screen. Take ownership of your health. Know what you're getting. Sometimes patients will go to the emergency room and say, "I got my Pap test." I say you probably didn't, because that is going to happen in your doctor's office, in your nurse practitioner's office, in your midwife's office. So make certain, number one, that's how you can help eradicate cervical cancer. Number two, get vaccinated for HPV if you can. Get your children, and I don't mean just the girls, the boys too. Before age 15, only 2 shots are needed over a period of 6 months. Up to age 45, the FDA has now approved HPV vaccine. So make certain that that happens as well. The next thing, make certain you follow up on all of your results. Don't just say no news is good news, because there's no such thing as that. Take your ownership and follow up on your results. And whatever your provider tells you to do, that's what you should do. Pay as much attention to that as your hair appointment, as your grocery bill, as where you're going to eat. Okay, so that is, I just want to say thank you very much for having me here and help me and help us at Equal Hope eliminate cervical cancer in Chicago.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lori Wilcox. I'm the Bloom Township Democratic Committee woman as well as a candidate for State Senate for the 40th District. But I am also a cervical cancer survivor. I'm a cervical cancer conqueror. In 2012, I was walking around for about 4 weeks with my side hurting. And I ignored it because I'm overly committed to everyone. And you know, women, we are always overly committed to everyone except for ourselves, right? We take care of our children, we take care of the men in our lives, we take care of our extended family, but we ignore the symptoms in our body, which is what I did. And so I was in a meeting and my side started hurting. So on my lunch break, I went to the doctor, and about an hour later, I'm like, you know what, I have to go back to work. I have some things to do at work. I'll come back. I came back. He gave me some surprising news that, you know, we were expecting, my husband and I were expecting our 4th child. And so then he said, but we're going to have surgery tomorrow because it's a ectopic pregnancy. And I said, how do I get my life together? So I had surgery the next day, and after that surgery, 8 surgeries later, after that surgery, we found out we had cancer. 8 surgeries later, I'm standing here before you advocating for cervical cancer, advocating for women to get checked, advocating for women to take care of yourselves, take care of your children, make sure you get your children vaccinated. I said that I was married. I said I'm the Democratic Committee woman. I said that I am running for Senate. No one is exempt from this. No one. No one is exempt from cervical cancer. Take care of yourselves, and thank you.
Come on, everybody, put your hands together. We talk about our health. You know how important that is. You know how important that is. Give them another round of applause. I can't hear you. I can't feel you. There you go. You know, this is a volunteer-driven organization, State Senator Michael Mitchell, and we're going to have to get you here so you can talk to our children about our history. In fact, his father was one of the authors of the Civil Rights Bill and the Voting Rights Act and the Fair Housing Act. Of course, Clarence Mitchell Jr., and then his uncle was Congressman Perrin Mitchell, the father of black business. We are so grateful to have you in with us today, Senator Mitchell from the great city of Baltimore, Maryland, everybody. Amen. You can do better than that. Yes, yes, yes. We thank God for Judge Stanley Hill, who volunteers to bring our children into all that they can be. You know, it's a little intimidating to get up here before a lot of people, right? Most of us are scared to do that. But when our children stand here, they are full of courage and they know that they can do it. And we thank Judge Stanley Hill for the work that he puts into these young people. So everybody put your hands together for Kaylee Robinson, a 4th grader from the Willard Elementary School.
Good morning. My name is Kaylee, and today I will be reciting for you Maya Angelou's Phenomenal Woman. Pretty women wonder where my secret lies. I'm not cute or built to suit a fashion model size. When I start to tell them, they think I'm telling lies. I say it's in the reach of my arms, the span of my hips, the stride of my step, and the curl of my lips. Because I am a woman, phenomenal woman, that's me. I could walk into a room just as cool as you please, and to a man the fellows stand or fall to their knees. Then they swarm around me like a hive of honeybees. I say, it's in the fire of my eyes, the flash of my teeth, the swing of my waist, and the joy of my feet. Because I am a woman, phenomenal woman, that's me. Men themselves have wondered what they see in me. They try so much, but they can't touch my inner mystery. When I try to show them, they say they still can't see. I say, it's in the arch of my back, the sun of my smile, right in my breast, and the grace of my style. Because I am a woman, phenomenal woman. That's me. Now you understand just why my head ain't bowed. I don't have to jump about or talk real loud. When you see me passing, it ought to make you proud. Because I am a woman, phenomenal woman, that's me. Now I have shared with you about a phenomenal woman, and now it is my pleasure to introduce a phenomenal man, Reverend Jesse L. Jackson.
Come on, put your hands together. Let's stand as we sing it.
Respect me, protect me, never neglect me. I am somebody. I am God's child. Keep up alive.
At the end of this day, they can turn and walk away, but I am somebody. Oh, one more time, I am somebody. Oh, I am. Hey, end of this day, turn and walk away, but I am somebody.
Let me express my thanks for our special guest today and for the wonderful work that Santita does as our Mr. Sermon. Give Santita a big hand, shall we? Let's have a brief announcement. I want to hear a meditation song and then bring on Jonathan to take us to the next level. Iowa is not just incompetence. We're going to consider filing a lawsuit. It should be outlawed. I said 91% white does not represent America in that sense. Secondly, you don't vote private. You vote. You have to go to a caucus at night. Suppose the guy you work next to is a Klansman. You got to argue with him in the caucus. Say the right to vote is private and personal. We want an American-style democracy. One person, one vote. How can Bernie win by 6,000 votes and then lose? That doesn't make sense, I don't think. How is like Hillary won by 3 million votes and Trump president? We got to straighten out the formula. Secondly, to high school students who are watching us, we have some teachers, some principals, some coaches here from Lincoln Park, standing coaches at Lincoln Park. Give them a hand. We support them. Put your hand together. They have been violated, and we stand with those coaches and with those children who are protesting in that school. The students are so upset with the injustice that they're walking out. We stand with the students in Lincoln Park, with their coaches and their parents. Give them another big hand, shall we? I want to make this announcement to you that between now and April the 4th, we want every high school senior listening in America register your high school senior class. You have the right to vote this fall. Why should I vote? You need Pell Grant, scholarship money. Vote, you need the right to serve on the jury. You need the right to reduce student loan debt. There are more 18-year-olds than there are 81-year-olds. You have the power. And so we should register. Secondly, if you're in college, vote where you attend. If you're in school in Urbana, vote there. Don't come back to Chicago to vote or go to New Orleans. So as a college student, I have the right to vote where I live. I live where I get my mail, or where I stayed the last 2 or 3 nights in a row. Santita mentioned the day that Thursday night we're having a big affair. We're honoring Kobe Bryant. Shaquille O'Neal is the host, and Dougie Fresh will be there, and Isaiah Thomas, and Dave Bing, Hall of Famers, and Judge Greg Mathis. Tickets are $35, $150, and $500. It's a fundraiser. It's a $35, $150, and $500. Go online and get your ticket today. We're going to have a big fund because it allows us to sustain our Push Excel program. Before I bring on Brother Jonathan, I want Sister Town to come and give a version of Jesus for me. She gave it last week in Jenna, but I want Jenna to hear this. I need this. I need her spirit and her gift. And then next week he'll be that of our national spokesman, my son, beloved Jonathan Jackson. Cindy, Jesus.
Mary had a little lamb, a little lamb, a little lamb. Mary had a little lamb, and Jesus, he sees his name. He's Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. There's just something about that name. Oh, he's my master, Savior. He's my Jesus. He's like the fragrance after the rain. Oh, Jesus, 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 let all heaven and earth proclaim that kings and kingdoms, oh, may all pass away, and there's something about that name. Oh, Jesus, Jesus, wonderful Jesus. There's just something, y'all, oh, about his name. He's my master, and this earth proclaim that kings and kingdoms, they may all pass away. I tell you, there's something, y'all, about, there's something miraculous, oh, about, there's something awesome, y'all, all about, there's something wonderful about, there's just something about that name.
I am honored to be back here today in the house of Rainbow Push. I'd like to give my father, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, a very special thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak before you today on this part of our annual African American History Month. It is rather peculiar to me. I think that there are so many entertainment events now in African American History Month, you're seldom even hearing the name African American history. I'm not much on conspiracies, but it's just rather peculiar, shall I say? The Super Bowl, I remember growing up, used to be in January, and now it is in February. And there's a host of other things that come around. Now, what I would also share with you is I've seen more news coverage of Groundhog Day than I have seen of African American History Month. These persons that came before us today, and I thank you, Winona, and thank you, Jack, and I thank you for having come forward. We're going to put renewed emphasis and focus on our health care. And why is that important? I've had the opportunity to go to Alabama several times in the last year, in the Black Belt, in the Delta of Alabama, where blacks are twice as poor as whites. All of them poor, and blacks are twice as poor. And black women are dying at twice the rate of white women. Neither black nor white should be dying from a disease that can be preventable and is curable. We want to fight for justice for all. This is our African American History Month. I had the opportunity not long ago to be in Washington, D.C., Dad, and I went by the Library of Congress to try to find some additional details on African American history. We have an African American female that now leads the institution, and I thought it was peculiar, follow me, at first that there is not a dedicated area for African Americans in the Library of Congress and in its history. Relax, sip tea, breathe. It doesn't take much for us to get to 10. The issue is that Dr. Carter G. Woodson's papers have been given to the Library of Congress. There is a specialist there in African American literature, papers, and history. But Dr. Carter G. Woodson, the founder of African American History Month, did not want his papers isolated, segregated in the Congress. Dr. Carter G. Woodson, born in 1875 in Huntington, West Virginia. He was born right after slavery. He is the first and the only African American to have received a PhD from Harvard University. His parents were born into slavery. Education was not afforded to him at an early age. He was working in the coal mines. I know we've heard of Tammy Wynette and others talk about a coal miner's daughter, but from the son of a coal miner, African American. This man went back to high school at the age of 20, went on to study in college at Berea College, and then graduate. Then he went to serve in the Philippines and studied at the Sorbonne in France. came back through Chicago working on his master's degree to get a master's in love languages. From there, he went on to Harvard. And when he got to Harvard, he noticed that African Americans were not even in the literature of the country. He could find no accomplishments that African Americans had made in all of our history. His mindset immediately went to, how can you be proud of a race if you've not read the biography, if you know nothing of its history? How can people not look upon you as civilized if you have not contributed anything meaningful to history? He was simply not a historian. He was also keenly aware of the politics and the public relations that go into understanding and misinforming persons about history. A person I have on this stage today, I want you to know, history is not dead. History is not over. History is not finished. History allows us the opportunity to put things in context so we can have a springboard, we can have a backstop, so we can go forward and eliminate the lies. We have an election coming up now, and there's a gentleman here that I am proud to call a friend, and I'm even more proud to call him a freedom fighter and a lover of justice. On the stage here today, joining us is the Honorable Justice Scott Neville. Please give him a loving round of applause. The reason I'm honored to call his name, and I'm not in love with judges just because they're judges, and I'm not in love with people just because they have a title. I'm more impressed with persons that have power, that use it for the cause of justice and use it for the cause of freedom. We know the case of Laquan McDonald. A child was shot right here in Chicago on 40th and Pulaski Avenue in the heart of the city. The officers lied on a dead child. A child was born from a mother that had substance abuse issues. He had a neurological disorder. At the age of 16 years of age, he was earning taxes, paying into America's financial system. He had a troubled life growing up. He was not a troubled child. He was a child simply with a problem. When the officers came, they gunned him down, shot him 16 times, and grown men lied on this child, protecting one another. We believe in the process of voting and participating. And thank God we have an attorney general and a state's attorney. And we also have a man that's on the Illinois Supreme Court, Brother Kwame Raoul, our Illinois attorney general. When he saw that the verdict and the sentencing was not right, he appealed it. He appealed it to what? Our highest court, the Illinois Supreme Court. And when that paper arrived on the Illinois Supreme Court, most persons want to come along, get along. It's all right. The family's been paid. The issue's been settled. No, no, no. Justice was not served. When the Supreme Court justices had to hear it, a man of our conscience, of our votes, of our belief, he saw it. Even when the majority said it was all right and they did not want to hear the case, there was a man who had a dissenting opinion, who wrote the case on behalf of Laquan McDonald, on behalf of all of those that have been tortured, on behalf of our children that don't receive justice. I don't want to fix the blame. I want to fix the problem. Here is a solution to the problem. I can't thank you enough, Justice Neville. That's big news, because you're going to see people. You're going to see people that have our face and understand our culture, and they're going to smile and be cool. But once they get into the corridors of power, they're going to sell you out. So I'm honored that this man would come here today. And I want to get back to Black history because it's then and now. I don't think our history begins with slavery. I'm glad we've started there, but we have to go deeper than that. We are human beings and have always been human beings. Hello. I want you to change your mindset so you can correct your future. I didn't start as a slave. My grandmother and great-grandmother that weren't afforded formal education did not start as a slave. That may be from your perspective and your history. My parents and grandparents and greats have always been God's children. When Thomas Jefferson had 400 women and men that he said that he owned, they were still God's children. When he was raping a teenage girl that now history tries to say they had a relationship, he enslaved his own children. I want the whole truth to come out. I'm not speaking bad about Mr. Jefferson and the founders and the Constitution. I'm just telling the truth on the man. And if you can't handle the truth, shame on you. I want us to see that we are whole people. We are in the whole history of America. I went to Austria this last year on behalf of my father, the Reverend Jesse Jackson. And they were talking about Eastern European Russian affairs. And all of these people from around the world were gathering in a fine, small village. And the gentleman asked me, where was I from? I said, Chicago. He said, no, where are you really from? I said, the United States of America. He says, but where did your parents come from? I said, my family's burial sites go back to 1700s in South Carolina. We're founding members of the United States of America. The man's jaw almost dropped. He was proud that he was Armenian. He was proud to know the Turkish relationship in the village that he came from. I said, you don't understand. We were born there, have always been a part of. That's the American story. He says, I never thought of it like that. You're full American citizens. In African American History Month, you saw the president's address the other day. It was so great to see a 100-year-old soldier, a Tuskegee Airman, be given the honor that he deserves bestowed upon him to be made a brigadier general. Although it was mighty late, I'm glad that he saw it and God has spared him to see such a time. But let's talk about technology and politics on all what was happening and why we need a Rainbow Push platform on why we need to put our history into context. Follow me if you will. And if you haven't brought your children by your television, by their game, by their video screen yet, please take it from them and let them tune in so they can learn something they're not going to see in school. Let me digress one moment on that. This sort of message isn't even welcomed at schools. They say, I don't want to hear from a Jesse Jackson. That may upset the children and make the parents. I don't want to hear from his son because that may upset the children. We get blocked, locked, and stopped from going into schools to teach the children. But thank God we have a platform that my father, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, has built. When we talk about what has happened in politics and politics, when Mr. President of the United States first got into office and he started signaling, my crowd was bigger than Obama's crowd. My crowd was bigger than Obama's crowd. That's not what he was really saying. He saw that. You saw it. Breathe. Sip tea, relax. He was signaling because he can count. He has numeracy, maybe short on literacy, but he's high on numeracy when you operate a casino. He understood the math. He understood that Mrs. Clinton won by 3 million votes. He said, look at his crowd size, my crowd size. He also understood that the Republicans had won 22 state legislatures and governorship. When he kept saying his crowd, my crowd, his crowd, my crowd, he was doing a dog whistle to tell those legislatures, start voter suppression. They beat us. They brought out more votes than us. There was a bank shot for those that know pool. For those of us that have been had in the 3-card Monte, you were made a fool out of. Again, when he says he's being lynched, he wasn't talking about the plight of African Americans. What he was saying is, one person in my party is trying to get other people in my party, Mr. Romney, to turn and vote to have witnesses and bring this before the Senate. He was signaling to the El Paso shooters, go pay him a visit. He was sending death threats and violence into the land. Those persons that voted not to have witnesses know that he did was wrong. Even the senator from Maine said he learned a lesson. I'll have no comment on that. I wish they would slap our children on the hand and say they've learned a lesson instead of throwing the whole sentencing and justice on their back, trying to break them. Look at what he does. So when he extols and exalts an African American general, and then before the quick sleight of a hand, he extols the virtues that he sees in a Rush Limbaugh and has his wife pin the National Medal of Freedom. These are things that are reserved our nation's highest honor for those that are freedom fighters, like Mrs. Rosa Parks, like Reverend Jesse Jackson, like so many others that have laid the path. My father has told me, hate the sin, but not the sinner. And I understand people that have substance abuse, and I pray for them. And I understand people that are going through drug withdrawal, and we have to pray for our friends that have that addiction. But when I think about Mr. Limbaugh, who says that my father looks like the composite shot of those that have been on arrest mug shots. When I think of Mr. Rush Limbaugh that says there were 90 million Native Americans and now there are only 4 million and they all have casinos, they didn't have a bad deal. When I think about Mr. Rush Limbaugh who said there were, when the times of slavery, he says, I'm not advocating for slavery again, I'm just saying that the streets were safe. These are the words of Mr. Rush Limbaugh. Well, I'm trying to find out what merit, what glory, what honor did the president see in this man's vitriol and his disgusting language. But then when I think of Mr. Limbaugh, who did not finish high school, who's been a troubled child his whole life, who is a drug addict, a dope head, a crackhead, let us pray for those in recovery because there may be something redeemable in his life, but he's done nothing of honor. These are the words of Jonathan L. Jackson. Why do we have to know about our history? Because when the president gets a man from Ohio and says this man, this African American man needs a job, and the man has no teeth in his head, and he's trying to hold his head up with pride. If you cared about that man, you could have gone to Clear Choice and got him some teeth the same day before you put him on the television. When you get one African American child and say, look at that girl, look at that single mama, we know the dog whistle that you're doing. Then you ask her, the Senate, to say, now give me 1 million vouchers so I can dismantle public education. That's all trickery. I really wish you all would look at the State of the Union. He, in short, was not trying to get African Americans to vote for him. He was trying to get those that don't want to be labeled racist or those that are racist not to feel so racist and vote for him. That was the point of him talking about African Americans. It's African American History Month. We have to put not just the white on the page, but the black on the page. It's been a continuous battle for liberty and justice for all. Dr. Carter G. Woodson starting African American History Month right here in Bronzeville. Do our children through our public school system take tours to see where this great idea came from? He saw that minus the truth, you had deletion, distortion. It was propaganda. It was not history. We've been here since the founding and have always been a part. African American History Month gives our children a chance to hold their head high. And it was never intended to be about the first black this and the first black that. The truth be told, some of the first were some of the worst. It's about when you got in, did you try to expand? Did you try to make America whole? Did you try to make America better? Not simply get up there off the pain and the suffering of your people so you can profit and never look back. He wanted to tell the whole of American history. And if you do it like that, you would know the name Eli Lovejoy. You would know the gentleman down in Southern Illinois, a white abolitionist newspaper operator, owner, who was writing the literature going into Missouri to say that African Americans should be free, a true abolitionist. And what did the whites do down there? They descended upon his printing press. They killed him and threw his press into the Mississippi River because he was a nigger lover. You would know the name of Eli Lovejoy for those that are in the National Association of Blacks and Journalists. You can't do more journalism work than him. You would know the name of Viola Louisa, a white woman, Italian immigrant who went to Mississippi to be with the Freedom Riders, who they blew her brains out. You would know those that taught Mrs. Rosa Parks and the Highlanders, whites that fought for justice. Ours is not about black and white. Ours is about wrong and right. We celebrate Africans in the history of America. African American History Month. We need to teach it so our children can understand what it means to fight for the right. American history is complicated. I, like many of you, when I was a child, would fall asleep in school. I couldn't understand it. They said we were slaves. They said we did this. I saw no redeeming factor that we had done. I saw people talk about my father. I saw people talk about the civil rights leaders, only to realize you have to have a maladjusted attitude when looking at American history. You see, those that fought against slavery broke the law. Those that supported slavery were upholding the law. Those that supported the Nazis were working with the law. Those that fought the Nazis broke the law. It's contradictory, but it's also very much paradoxical and consistent. A friend of mine told me the other day, he says, Jonathan, I got an issue. He says, this is a white friend of mine, he says, my child was playing the video games during the weekday, and he knows we don't play video games during the week. But then he tells me, Dad, there is a woman who broke a law so that things could be better for everyone, and her name is Rosa Parks. He says, what can I tell him? I said, hold on, let me put my dad on the phone. And he tells him, grab your little child by the behind and tell him he's wrong. And we hung up and kept moving. So I want you to know, children can be confused on African American History Month. I've had to figure out when to tell my children about grandpa. Like, your granddad is like everybody else's granddad, Reverend Bonds. But granddad's a little different. Can't quite put a finger on it. Just know him as granddad, but he's a little different. And I just figured I'd let it play itself out. Just wait on it. So one day my son comes home after school and he's visibly upset. And I'm like, what's wrong, son? He says, I saw a picture on the wall. And I said, that's my grandpa. And another child to school said, you're a liar. That's not your granddaddy. He didn't know what to say, so he comes home shaken up. He says, Dad, is that granddad on the wall? I said, yep, let's have a seat. Granddad has helped a lot of people for a long time. Granddad's been on the wall helping people. And you ought to be proud of Granddad. I could see my child's head rise up and shoulders set back. And just like in The Lion King, I was clear, you're a Jackson and you're gonna be all right. Simba, once you know who you are, you're gonna be all right. So he went back to school and saw that child. And he says, yes, that's my granddad that's on the wall. And he said, where is your granddad on the wall? I want our coaches and our principals to know this is a fight for the lives and minds of our children. We have to fight. Our coaches and our principals need to be given the benefit of the doubt. We cannot live with this sort of reckless injustice where an accusation becomes an indictment and a conviction, and you tarnish and you besmirch their character, their personality, and you punish the children and suspend the entire season. That ain't right. Do you remember when do you remember when Rush Limbaugh was shopping for pills and dope? And the reason I'm so hurt by Mr. Limbaugh is because nobody in their right mind could have said the things he said. So clearly he was on substance. And some very rich and powerful people have exploited this drug addict. Don't you think? He didn't know he said it. Can people on drugs be held responsible, accountable for the things they've said and done? So let's pray for that man, and let us pray he gets off the drugs that he uses. Oh, I'm going to call him that. Have you heard what he said? Being sponsored by every major corporation? Ladies and gentlemen, we have to remove the spirit of fear. You're free. Pick your head up. You'll make your children stronger. I had never had dreams and visions on being on this stage. I'm a stutterer. I was in what they called extra help class. Now they've called it special education. Now they call it something else. Well, I knew I was special. The good Lord, just like Moses, held my tongue back a little bit. When we were flying back on Thursday night from New York, and I saw, Dad, it was a storm, and it was the second scariest flight I ever had in my life. I realized we were just like a little piece of sand in the winds, and the plane was dropping and shaking. Reverend, I had to open my Bible, and I saw that God made a covenant. He promised not to put the flood back on the earth, even after the earth had descended. That's the only way I found some hope and some counsel and some comfort. Lord, we need the covenant to be seen. What this man is doing in D.C., I'm not afraid of, because we have the power to stop him. We have to fight for one person, one vote. The winner of Iowa had 6,500 more votes in the first round, 2,500 more in the second round. If Bernie Sanders won, whether you love him or not, he won Iowa. Why are people breaking the process? You can't corrupt the process and then expect the children to come out to vote. That's not fair. African American History Month. We fought too long, died too early, have had to go through too much to not teach our children the truth. We need to extol our own virtues. And by doing so, we're going to help all children see themselves. Children are not born racist. But when you don't see the contributions of Hispanics when you don't see the contribution of Asians, when you don't see the contributions of African Americans, when you think you are divinely ordained and your race is above all other races, you are injecting into the veins of your child racism. We're going to abolish it. Let us fight for freedom and let justice roll on.
A boy is born in Houghton, Mississippi, surrounded by...
Welcome to Chicago 2020 NBA All-Star Weekend. Join Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr., Rainbow Push Coalition, CEF, and Push Excel as we host a star-studded tech benefit for Cool Kids Code. Thursday, February 13, 2020 at Soldier Fields United Club, featuring a tribute to Kobe Bryant with our special guest, NBA Hall of Famer Shaquille O'Neal. Meet and greet special co-chairs, NBA Hall of Famers Isaiah Thomas and David Bing, along with TV Emmy Award-winning Judge Greg Mathis and the human beatbox Dougie Fresh. Get the party started with DJ Vince Adams. Get your tickets today. Visit welcometochicago.ticketmambo.com or call 888-503-6631. Keep hope alive.